Today we're going to show you how to make Lady Deadpool's costume from Deadpool and Wolverine. For this build, I used EVA foam, craft foam, magnets, random belts and buckles, paint, a Canadian.
Good, I don't have to say the word about.
Super glue, hot glue, cutting tools, sanding tools, safety gear, scissors, razor pens, and a box cutter. So first off, the jumpsuit. You can buy a heavily stylized one for upwards of $70, but I found a khaki jumpsuit that'll work for $15, and I can dye it red for an additional $8. I added some vinegar and dye and stirred it up. Now you really have to keep an eye on the temperature when doing this, especially with a plastic bucket. It's got to be warm enough for the dye to set properly, but not so hot as to melt the plastic. And you know, I have a much more durable bucket than this. The last time I used it for mixing cement, and you really don't want to cross-contaminate.
Alright, so what you're going to do is you're going to walk straight towards the camera, stop right there on the T, strike a pose, spike the lens, say your line, and action. What gives? Why aren't you?
I can't move.
I'll go get the chisel.
This is why prop guys shouldn't make costumes.
Now for the mask. Now I have done a whole video on how to make one out of foam. You can check that out if you want, but that's scaled to me and redoing it here is just gonna seem repetitive, so I'm gonna use a different method this time. So for her, I bought a mid-range, medium price mask, cut a hole in the tail, and threaded a synthetic blonde ponytail through the hole. Now for the face, the best way to get facial expressions to translate through a mask is to make a latex domino mask and then attach it to the actor's face with spirit gum or liquid latex. But that's not good for the actor's skin, and their face is their job. Seriously, actors have crazy daily skincare regimens.
Hey Jake, can I borrow your grail?
Sure thing.
Thanks.
For the mouth portion, I added a silicone mesh face mask to the interior. This will allow the mask to sit correctly and will allow the actor to speak without the cloth obstructing her lines.
Detective Pikachu.
For real though, you know they dubbed most of the movie. No shade, it's just how movies are made. You don't want Deadpool to sound like Bane, do you?
Wow, I have no idea what you're saying at all. Can we get some subtitles up in here?
Large print, I'm nearsighted. God, it's like watching The Crown. Moving on. Now for the costume hard points. This is more in line with what I normally do. Gonna make some quick shoulder pauldrons out of craft foam. I made a cardboard stencil first, just so that they would be identical. This is loosely based on my Anakin armor, but I'm using a much thinner foam this time in order to make it more form-fitting and look like black leather. I traced it with a white marker and cut it out with a razor pen. Then I heated it up with my directional heat applying machine and rounded it out on a hard curved surface. Then I applied super glue to that cutout and glued it together. Lastly, I used 2mm thick EVA foam to secure safety pins into the inside of the pauldron so that they could be pinned to the jumpsuit. Next, for the belt, I just found one at a thrift store. Sometimes this is easy. Sometimes. Really any belt will do, but I like this one because it's got so many extra holes in it. More of a tactical belt. The pouches I made out of brown craft foam and super glue. They're actually easier than you might expect. They just have to be identical, so I made a stencil. It's literally 2 4mm wall pieces, and the main outer skin of it is one piece of 2mm craft foam that just wraps around. I made 6 identical pouches and glued them together. Individually, not all together. Whatever, just watch the video. I also used a little bit of silver foam for the latch. A good scale reference for the belt pouches is a standard business card, or credit card, which could also come in handy at conventions.
Why are these full of William Shakespeare business cards?
ABAB.
Always be branding?
Always be adding ballast. There's a typo on those when I ordered them first time around, so they're basically useless.
William Jake's beard. Yeah, guess so.
I just can't grow one.
So, ballast. Then I added a belt loop to the back of each pouch, and a small bit of silver foam to the front of each pouch to represent the buckle. Speaking of which, for the belt buckle itself, I cut a large circle out of EVA craft foam, which took a little bit of refinement. I see it. Then I added black craft foam with silver eyes to make the Deadpool logo. I cut the side pieces out of gold craft foam, and of course added belt loops to the back of those as well. Now for the Uzis. This part of the build is kind of dicey because of YouTube's policies, but I think that by burying it in the middle of the video, I'm in the clear. Now, take that Soviet-era censorship.
Hey Jay, what you making?
Nothing. I'm not doing anything. What'd you hear? Ah, to hell with it. All right, she's made of metal.
Don't want to lose those sweet, sweet ad revenue dollars. Otherwise, there'd be a considerable drop in production value.
Hey, shouldn't this be a blue glove?
Damn it!
I made those out of scrap foam floor mats. They're 2 to 3 layers thick in general, just rectangles with a PVC pipe in between.
And glued them all together. Using hot glue, I weighted it down with metal machinist blocks, which will not only help it hold in place, but as the glue dries, the blocks, being metal, will help to disperse the heat.
While the body is supposed to be blocky, the handle has to be curved so as to be comfortable to hold. So that one's only 2 layers thick, and when I got the general shape, I sanded it smooth on the belt sander. When it was rounded, I added it to the main body. Then I added details in order of most visually significant, such as the magazine and sights. I'm gonna have to fudge some of the details here, and that's partly because there have been so many variants of this particular blaster throughout history, but also because the ones in the movie are custom made to fit in a specialized holster on either leg, which means the details have to be mirrored on top of that. You'll notice that I built the left one first and am using it for reference, but making sure to put all the details on the opposite side for this one. And to add another variable, the ones that are actually discharging in the movie are different from the ones that she's wearing and acting with. You can see it in the freeze frame. See, in filmmaking, there's always duplicates. So being that there's no possible way of making them accurate, I'm just gonna go nuts with the Greeblies and make them wildly unrealistic in ways that only I would know. It doesn't come up in the sketch, but they can also defend against Superman. I used putty to fill in the seam where I wasn't able to cover it up with details. I widened the muzzle with the 4mm foam, added paneling with 2mm foam, sometimes in dot form, and added bevels for the rounded details, and the triangular ones. The triangles started as a bevel, but then I cut it up. While I'm adding this detail to one side, I'm leaving the other curiously blank. That's because it needs to be able to adapt to the holster. Typically, holsters are leather, but that's not going to work here because she needs to be able to move fluidly, and there's just too many jagged edges on this blaster for that to work. It's gonna catch on a cloth or even semi-cloth holster. So instead, I'll be using magnets, which I swear I'll show you right after this round of painting. Painting, to be done right, has to be done agonizingly slowly. Multiple layers over several days. Otherwise, it just won't look right. Hence why this may seem out of order a bit, but rather than doing 20 minutes on painting each side, I figured I'd just go, hey, look, I painted it. But see, look, magnets! I made the mounting plate out of 4mm foam and drilled 3 holes in it. Then I placed 3 magnets into the holes and covered them up with a layer of cardstock. Foam is too thick to get good adhesion between the magnets. Then I glued 1 magnet strip to the blaster and saved the other one for the holster. Now it's absolutely vital to make sure that the magnets are correctly aligned. Otherwise, the results could be catastrophic. I painted over those and got to work on the straps. The buckles are pretty easy to come by. Some of these were harvested off of an old backpack, but hers are supposed to be silver, so I painted those with silver tester's paint. And then I added the straps. 1 vertical to attach to the belt, and 1 horizontal to go around the leg. When the buckles dried, I threaded them through the straps. Nope, I threaded the straps through the buckle loop. There we go. Good thing I clarified that. Someone would have been confused, I guarantee you. And then I did a test fitting on a thermal detonator, which is exactly her size. Fun fact, 50% of all actors are made of plastic explosive. Now I'm not so comfortable going through customs with Uzis, so this time I'm gonna sneak across the border via submarine, the least suspicious mode of transport.
You're gonna get a Gordon Lightfoot song, you know that, right?
I'll take my chances!
Now the shin guards are pretty straightforward, but I'll go over them anyway. I made a stencil so that they'd both come out the same
out of cardboard and then traced it onto the foam and cut it out. I flipped it and traced it in order to get the opposite side. I made those out of 4mm black craft foam,
cut them out with scissors
along the line, then I heat formed it very lightly
this time because this foam is thinner. Then I made the red parts using red floor tile scraps left over from the mask build, and like the mask build, I cut them down to a thinner width.
Okay, now
I'm actually doing this opposite from how I normally do by having the texture facing outward and the smooth side on the inside. Then I glued them to the shin guards, texture side facing out. I did heat form them as well, but I don't actually think it's necessary for parts this small. I attached the straps and then made the swords. The swords are just swords. I mean, what do you want from me? Do I have to show you how to make everything? I mean, come on, it's October. You should be able to find these. If not, then you can always check out my space sword build and just bend it until it looks like a katana. But she doesn't actually use them in the movie, so what are we even doing here? And that's how to make Lady Deadpool's costume. Now go harass a honey badger. Thanks for watching, everybody. Do want to give a quick shout out to my patrons. Those are the names scrolling by. Specifically, I'd like to thank new patrons Hugo Dr., Bradley B, Jaron J, William S, and longtime patrons Martin JM, Graham K, and Gabriel T, whose astounding contribution not only makes the videos possible, but allows me to go the extra mile. If you're interested in joining them and supporting the channel, then you can check out the links in the description down below for patron channel services, such as early uploads and limited ads. Alright, hope you enjoyed this. Don't forget to like and subscribe, hit the bell icon to be notified of the future uploads, and let me know what other props you'd like to see me make in comments down below. Thanks again, happy crafting, see you later.
Making the guns kiss.